Thank you. Oh. Thank you. Oh.
Welcome to the second episode of URT Number the Amazing Race 32 recaps from Reality TV Warriors. My name is Michael Armstone, and joining me as always is the Canadian who has sad trombone music playing wherever he goes, Logan Saunders.
Good afternoon.
And the lady whose children sleep in an underground bunker every night, Michelle Pierce-Denovan.
Good morning.
Good morning. I love how anyone who's never listened to our podcast before is probably wondering why I constantly claim you hate your children. And it's probably because you do.
Well, yeah, these things, you know, it's been years and you're like a broken record and it will never go away.
I feel like we, every season, have to just explain why Michelle hates the children.
Oh my God, shut up.
Just for new people. Basically, Michelle said that if she ever went back on Australian Survivor, she wouldn't get emotional if she saw her children, because she's there to play a game.
Jeez Louise.
Why are we always like the Truman Show in all of our introductions? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
Good night. We need a fourth.
Yeah, because to be fair, we're pretty much 8 hours apart at the moment, so it actually is morning, evening, and night for one of us each.
But Michael, you never actually say good evening.
I know, that's because I like to leave it not time sensitive. It could be any time of the day, even though, let's be honest, it releases at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night for me.
Oh, God.
I could genuinely say good evening, but I'm not going to.
Go on. Go on.
You guys get nothing from me.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
You're no fun.
Yeah, you should be used to that by now. So previously, 11 brand new teams set off on a race around the world. In Trinidad, teams raced to get good flights to Tobago, but once they landed, Kelly and Levon stumbled at a fish challenge, while Gary was out of time at the roadblock. Michelle was in tune, but it was Hung and Chi who won the leg, and were first to find out that they would keep on racing to Colombia. However, Nathan and Cody came in last, and were left behind.
It sounds like a very male-dominant society, especially when they call their country Trinidad and Tobago. Why not Trinamom and Tobago, or Trinamom and Trinidad? Why is it always about dads?
How does your brain come up with stuff like this?
I genuinely have no idea. As you guys well know, I'm editing another season at the moment that we're going to talk about not on this episode. And genuinely some of the jokes Logan tells, I'm like, what? Where did that come from?
Like, what's one that comes to mind, Michael?
There's just some really random comments where I'm just like, yeah, I'm taking that out because it's just weird.
I didn't know you did that. Sorry, I didn't know you censored Logan.
Not just Logan, anything stupid you say as well, I take out.
No, you keep everything in. You keep everything
It's
in.
all gold.
Well, yeah, everything Michelle says is gold. Logan's is kind of bronze at best.
Aww.
Maybe copper-plated tin, if I'm being reasonable.
But you can't turn over the lids because they're the silver and bronze are the same yogurt lid.
Also, Michelle, there is a clip that I don't think I sent you that I've taken from one of the episodes I've been editing this week that is probably the most unintentionally inappropriate thing Logan has ever said. It is delightful, and spoilers will be making an appearance when I next do a face cream clip because it just makes me laugh so hard.
Oh, jeez.
So I don't just bully you, I'm an equal opportunities arsehole.
They're very correct.
So we begin with Hung and Chi actually leaving the Baku integrated facility, and for the first time all season, Chi speaks. Because I think we only had one line out of him last week, which was thanks Mom and Dad for giving me piano lessons. I don't actually think we heard him speak last week.
He's a very humble dude.
Yeah, we saw far more of Hung than we did of Chi last week.
And I think it's still the same ratio roughly this week too.
And Kelly and Levon say in their cab that they have a target because they are Olympians. And much to my irritation after speculating it last week, the keep on racing leg was completely and utterly irrelevant because they're all on the same flight.
And we don't get any departure times. Both of Michael's pet peeves are hit in the first 2 minutes.
Two of three, they could have not given us a full intro. They did give us a full intro, which I was very surprised about.
Yes, it was good.
It does usually mean they've got absolutely no content in the leg if they do that, but not in this case, surprisingly.
We get a full intro, and once again, we get 3 tasks in a 10-team episode.
And we also see Phil introduce Bogota and tell us what the elevation of Bogota is, which is 8,660 feet. And he says that the thin air could push some teams to breaking point, which, of course, it doesn't. It's pointless to the leg. They don't need to keep that in.
I wonder if it would affect me, like having mild asthma. Probably not.
And the fact you live below sea level, Michelle?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Where you've been to places with high altitude, has it affected you, Logan?
I don't think have I been anywhere that's super high in elevation? I'm trying to think. I want to know what the elevation of Medellin is. I'm thinking it's got to be comparable to Colombia or to Bogota. Yeah, Bogota's or Medellin's elevation is 1,500 meters. Medellin is 5,000 feet, so that's just over half of Bogota's elevation. That might be one of the highest places I've been. Or oh no, I guess I did go to that mountain in Malaysia. I don't know. I haven't noticed it too much, but I also haven't been anywhere that's really high up.
What was the elevation of the place where your husband chucked a wallaby off a mountain using a golf cart, Michelle?
I think we were only, oh God, maybe another 200 meters above sea level.
That was Tassie, wasn't it?
Tassie? No, it was up in Queensland on an island.
I don't know why I had it in my head that it was Tasmania. That's Michelle's proposal story, in case anyone's never heard our Hunted recaps.
Jeez.
Her husband proposed on top of a mountain. I love this story, Michelle. I don't know why you're sighing at me. Her husband proposed at the top of a mountain in Queensland, and literally as he did, the heavens opened, they ran back to the golf cart, and Wallaby got maybe careened off the mountain by the golf cart.
Yes. Well, it flew, actually.
It's the most Australian story in history.
So I just looked up other like really high up amazing race locations, and when they went to Cuzco in season 7, that was over 11,000 feet. So I think that's a bit more significant. I think that's where it really affects you.
I think La Paz is the highest place they've actually been.
Yeah, that was a little over 11,000 as well. I checked La Paz as well, and what's that place in China? Guilin or Lijiang, which I think sounds like a Mortal Kombat character.
La Paz is the highest capital city in the world.
Yeah, Lijiang is roughly 8,000 feet. But that was a lot more running, though, in that episode. In Unfinished Business, when they were around Lijiang, China.
Yeah, La Paz is the highest in elevation in the world, and Kingston is the highest generally.
Jesus Christ.
I think that's not that one past Michelle. And given that...
You did.
He shoots, he scores.
I'm still waking up.
And given that we see a plane with the United livery, I have a suspicion that they may have changed in Miami in this episode. It may have been one of the rare trips back into the US to then come out of the US.
What? Why?
I'm guessing there's not too many direct flights from Port of Spain to Bogota.
Yeah, I did have a quick Google on the routes you can take. Most of them are like 22 hours.
My lord. It's not that far.
Yeah, it's not that far. There's just no direct flights. They've got to change them back in the US normally.
There's just not a big enough demand one way or the other.
And as I mentioned, we do get a full intro, and yet again they land at night, and the clue box is at the airport. And they must now travel to Mina del Sal, the Nemicon salt mine. And once there, they have to search the mine for an hourglass, either 10 or 20 minutes, and then sign up for a departure time at the entrance, either 6 a.m. or 6:30.
Would you have kept looking for the 20-minute hourglass?
It depends. Depends on your strategy. Because is 10 minutes really going to make a difference? I would argue probably not. But is leaving in the first group going to make a difference? Yeah.
There's a 30-minute advantage leaving in the first group as opposed to your little 10-minute hourglass.
Yeah.
A 30-minute advantage on 5 teams as opposed to a 10-minute advantage on 1 team. And that's if you know they are behind you when you use it.
And the hourglasses will be used for a yield later in the leg, and surprisingly, teams are actually made aware of this.
I'm surprised there wasn't a stronger reaction to... They're bringing back a twist from season 11? Why weren't they as shocked? I wonder if they read in the rule book beforehand. Oh yeah, looks like they're hinting that there's yields because they're talking about the yield rules in the rule book before we go out.
Aren't they all sat down in a conference room a few days before the start of the race and have the rules read to them? I wonder whether they mentioned the yield rules in there and then everyone's like, keep an eye out for yields, guys.
I would assume so. Otherwise it'd be like, what?
Yeah, unless they do the yield rules every time just to, keep people on the toes a little bit.
Yeah, it didn't pan out the first 21 times that the yield rules were explained to them, but we really got them on the 22nd. So they put 11 years into faking people out. Nope, not happening yet. Nope, we just wasted time explaining yield rules to you for half an hour, but 11 years later, we gotcha.
So Hung and Chi are the first to arrive, with Aparna and Ishwar in second, and Hung and Chi also find a dog on the way in.
What's with Hung finding dogs? This is the second leg in a row where they specifically point out her hanging out with a dog.
Maybe she just really likes dogs.
Mm.
And they decide to grab the first hourglass that they find, which is a 10-minute one. And Gary and D'Angelo see a 10-minute one and decide to leave it. And then James and Will find a 20-minute one, as do Gary and D'Angelo and Riley and Madison. And then everyone just kind of grabs an hourglass and checks in. So it's Hung and Chi who checking in first with a 10-minute hourglass, then James and Will with 20, Riley and Madison with 20, Gary and D'Angelo with 20, Aparna and Ishwar with 10. They're all on the 6 a.m. departure. And then Leo and Alana and Kelly and Levon both have 10-minute hourglasses. Kaylin and Haley and Michelle and Vic have 20-minute ones, and then Jerry and Frank have a 10-minute one, and they all leave at 6:30. And we don't even get to see Jerry and Frank pick anything up.
I was picking that up on the episode too, where they had an initial confessional at the start of the episode that was personal. I'm thinking, they're probably going to be eliminated. But then we didn't see them again, and then I thought, okay, I guess they're not eliminated this episode. But they sure as hell aren't going to win now.
Yes, spoilers, they are my pick for next week's elimination. I really strongly suspect they're probably going next week.
Well, that's how they do the second or third eliminations, right? They give them little to no airtime for the first episode or two, especially for the second team eliminated. They'll get 0 airtime in the first episode and then just pile it on in the second episode when they're eliminated, and then we never hear from them again. The Anthony and Stephanie strategy.
And they all get a really exotic sleeping arrangement as they get to sleep in a mine bunker.
Didn't they sleep underground in season 28 in Colombia, or did they wait to do that till they got to France when they forced them all to sleep underground? Because they had a very similar thing in season 28 where they all had to sleep in a cave together. And I'm thinking, did they just use a different Colombian cave? But now I'm thinking about it, I think that might have been in Europe because they had the Cartagena leg.
Maybe that's the safest place for them to sleep in Colombia. It's just underground.
Underground, away from everybody. or they actually do that a lot on the second leg now, or when they have 10 teams, because they did that in season 28, forced everybody to sleep in the same room together. They definitely did that during season 30, because they did that in they didn't show up, but they did that in Antwerp when what was it, a random cafe?
It was the chocolate cafe in Antwerp.
Yeah, and then season 26 they had the infamous hotel in the beginning. So maybe it's just the easiest, cheapest way for production to go is we don't want to spend money on 10 separate hotel rooms for all the teams. Let's just put them all in a cave for 6 hours and we're good.
Apparently there wasn't much sleep because D'Angelo snored.
Yeah. So once teams depart in the morning, they have to head on foot to Templo Parochial, San Francisco de Asís, and climb the bell tower to either collect a golden raft or an emerald. And they then have to head back to Bogota, where teams with an emerald must deliver it to a gemstone dealer, while teams with a raft must deliver it to an archaeology professor. And both are essentially in the same location.
And we get one of the rare early bird alliances in Amazing Race history.
Yes, I wrote that too, but that's really early for an alliance. That's what I wrote down.
Yeah, but it still doesn't work. That's the fun of it.
Yeah.
Like, James and Will try and form the 6 a.m. alliance, and nobody really helps each other anyway, but quite a lot of these teams are ones who James and Will have a friendship with anyway. Like, you have Aparna and Ishwar, who I think they have a friendship with, and also then you have, later on, Leo and Alana and Kaylin and Haley, who they definitely have a friendship with.
And then Riley and Madison saved them for figuring out where the location was for the gold/emerald task.
Yeah.
Hey,
Hey.
Hung and Chi only have one backpack.
Yes.
One backpack. I don't understand where all the clothes are.
This was apparently explained in a secret scene where they basically said that there was absolutely no point them having 2 backpacks and Hung having to carry one, so they just fit everything into one backpack and had Chi carry it.
It's not that large.
Maybe they can pack light. To be honest, if you were going on the race, you'd probably pack minimal anyway, because you're going to stink by the end of it regardless.
That's nice.
Well, it's true. You're not going to care that much by the end of 21 days, are you?
Usually that goes away, from what I've heard, by the second or third day.
Maybe that's me just kind of channeling my inner backpacker, but I think by that point you just don't care.
I'd care. I think I'd care. I'd care a little bit.
Michelle, you got to Final Four on a season of Survivor. You shouldn't care.
Who has, I think Mark and Bill had the record for the lightest backpacks? Maybe per person ratio, this may win out. I feel like one other team did just one backpack.
Couldn't think who off the top of my head, but Mark and Bill have quite legendarily had a very light backpacks.
Bacon and Tory spelling.
Do one backpack?
Who? Who?
No, they didn't.
Because I know they packed light. Well,
Bacon!
packed light. Really
Who?
light. Bacon packed really light.
I'm honestly just going to who him every time you mention him, so...
No, you don't have to who him if he says bacon.
No, I don't. I do have to dub over with bacon and Tory spelling though every time you do it. So please don't do it.
I haven't had bacon in so long. I want bacon now. I want bacon.
Michelle, I
Oh,
could so
dear.
take that out of context, especially
Yeah,
after
don't
after
do
the
that.
previous
Don't do that.
10 seconds of conversation. Me saying I'll have to dub it over with bacon and Tory spelling, and you just going, I haven't had bacon in so long. It's like, is there a
Well,
scandal brewing here?
It's funny that because we do this, and it's been the weekend every time because that's when I can do it. And weekends are when you have like bacon and eggs, and I haven't had it for so long.
Why? Is Sam putting you on a diet?
No, never. I'm never on a diet. But I didn't buy bacon when I went shopping, and I should have bought bacon.
Anyway, Riley and Madison, Kaylin and Haley, Jerry and Frank, Kelly and Levon, and Michelle and Vic are the ones to grab the golden rafts, and Hung and Chi, Apana and Ishwar, Gary and D'Angelo, Leo and Alana, and James and Will grab the emerald. And because this is Colombia, there are of course marked taxis outside the mine.
I'm loving Phil's accent or intonation of Spanish words. He's really putting in the effort.
Yeah, I must admit, when I saw the route marker at the church, I'm like, oh god, I've got to say that, haven't I?
You don't say it as well as Phil does.
No, and I'm not going to try and impersonate him in a Kiwi accent, I'm sorry.
He's not doing it in a Kiwi accent anymore.
I don't think he's even lived in New Zealand for about 25 years now.
Doesn't he have a house in New Zealand?
He does visit, well, when you can.
I think he does split his time between New Zealand and LA.
I don't know how frequently, though. I mean, he's he always has a lot of projects going on. He probably gets there once a year, I bet.
Some good, some tough as nails.
People made jokes about how this was a really good detour to make teams pick between gold and emerald this leg.
See, I would have liked with this challenge if they'd have actually been in different locations. It wasn't difficult enough for me, I'm sorry. Even though it was a 2-hour cab ride in terrible traffic, I feel like they should have tried to separate teams a little bit.
But they didn't. Yeah, like they can't have the line say, oh, well, I'm going to go drop off my gold and you go drop off your emerald and then we'll meet back here in 5 minutes.
And the one note I have when they arrive at the location where they're dropping things off is, did you spot what Hung said to her taxi driver?
No, I didn't.
No?
It was Hung Chi Returno.
Returno?
Yeah.
That's not a word, is it?
No.
Just add an O on the end? Return O.
In a leg where we see at least 2 racers demonstrate genuinely very good Spanish. I think it was Levon who was the main proponent of very good Spanish in this leg. Returno is not a good Spanish word. I'm sorry, Hung. As much as I love you, it's not Spanish.
Well, actually, Chi said espere, which means wait. I think that's really all you need to say to the drivers, espere.
Especially when we discussed last week how James and Will revised words in certain languages to make sure that they could communicate with taxi drivers. The word returno is not a good one.
No.
However funny it was. And I also love how the emerald brokers are crowded around emeralds on some race paper like it's cocaine.
Well, the race paper's good.
Yeah, they were kind of huddled in a circle over some race paper with some rocks on it. It genuinely looked like they were smuggling drugs.
Well, it is Colombia.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought.
I wonder if they avoided Medellin, because I know in Medellin they really, really hate any references to Pablo Escobar and the drug trade. So I wonder if that's part of the reason, even though Medellin's the best city to go to in Colombia, if that's the reason why they've avoided it on both visits now.
Yeah, because when Vidum went there, they didn't do any Pablo Escobar-themed things, did they?
No, well, I've heard stories. Well, when I did the Pablo Escobar tour, they said it's super controversial to even have that tour operating. Like, if you do even a walking tour of Medellin, they have to use an alternate name for Pablo Escobar, because if there's just locals walking by and they hear his name, they instantly get really pissed off. Yeah, it's you don't mention his name because they're all really sick and tired of all the jokes. I remember in season 28 on the Facebook pages when people would make Pablo Escobar references even though they went to Cartagena, you did see the Colombian users go on there and say, "We are more than that. Please knock it off."
And Hung and Chi miss the brokers, allowing Riley and Madison to leave in first, and the professor fakes them out by saying the raft is fake, but their clue is real.
Yeah, this is a knockoff. I'm calling the cops.
What would have been brilliant is if they'd have had to pick the correct one and had to go all the way back to the church. That's what I would have done.
Or they could have really taken faking them out to the next level, is when they say, "Oh, this is a fake," and then have them arrested. And once they throw them in the cell, they're like, "Here's your next clue."
It'd be like one of those places you're forced to go to if you go to China, where you have to go to a jade shop and learn how to tell the difference between real and fake jade. True story from when I went to Beijing.
So how can you tell the difference? Tell us, Michael.
The fake one looks like plastic, because it is. And it's genuinely nothing more than that. The fake jade looks like green plastic, probably because it is.
But does it feel like plastic?
Yeah. If you're just looking at, you can tell the difference between real and fake jade without much effort, because fake jade looks like plastic.
But do you need to have them side by side? What if you just had some fake jade with some other stone? Could you tell the difference?
Yeah, because fake jade also is a lot lighter than normal jade. Normal jade is very kind of dark green.
Interesting.
See, going to China did teach me one thing.
When I was in Italy, we got duped with a fake €2 coin that we could not use anywhere. Or, well, it was my friend's €2 coin, because we went to a shop and the guy's like, "This is very obviously a fake €2 coin that somebody gave you as change at another shop." Because he showed the two and he's like, "See how they are nothing alike and how the fake one is way heavier than the real one?" Because he dropped them both at the same time. It's like, yeah, there's definitely a weight difference.
Wow.
So, teams must now travel to Escuela Nacional Cerca para Todos and search for the next clue. And this is also the site of the first yield that will appear on the season. And it's Hung and Chi who leave in second, with Gary and D'Angelo in third.
I had to say that during this episode, I don't know, but maybe because I talked about the Amazing Race bum bag, or they call it fanny pack. But I'm seeing it all the time during this episode. I don't know why. It's like a beacon for me. I really want one, and they don't make them anymore. And apparently, our friend Joey, no, not Joey, Cavino. Yeah, Cavino said
you can call him Joey. We just refer to him as Cavino because he refers to us as our surnames.
I thought we were talking about Joey of Evie and Joey.
No. Joey, well, I'll say Cavino, said that he had his bum bag taken off him when he finished the race. He didn't get to keep it.
That's probably because he's just a security risk generally.
It's just an interesting fact.
They just didn't want him selling anything on. And Riley and Madison's taxi driver goes AWOL. And Kaylin and Haley's driver gets lost and can't turn around because it's a one-way street. Kelly and Lavon get a driver who gives them a phone, but it's dead because he lent the charger to another driver.
You know what year this was filmed? This is definitely not the early days of Amazing Race, where a taxi driver having a charger makes or breaks you.
And it's Aparna and Ishwar who live in 4th, with James and Will in 5th, and Michelle and Vic in 6th.
Do you think they were able to design which was closer, the gold or the emerald? Or do you think they had to be I would think delivering the gold would be tougher because you have to walk into the building and up all those stairs.
Yeah, I think gold was slightly tougher, but they're both in the same location. It's not actually that much different. And I think they got more instruction for the gold than they did for the emerald.
Because emerald, you have to go up to random groups of people.
Emerald, they just got told to deliver it to an emerald dealer, whereas gold, they got told to deliver it to a particular room.
They lucked out that there wasn't a second emerald dealer a real emerald dealer who was operating at the same time.
And Leo asks if anyone wants his emerald, and they live in 7th, with Jerry and Frank in 8th, Kelly and Levon in 9th, and Kaylin and Hayley in last. And Gary and D'Angelo and Hung and Chi both choose not to yield. And then it is the roadblock, which is who feels like clowning around. And in this roadblock, one team member must join the circus, attempting the Wheel of Death and walking a tightrope with wine glasses and a wine bottle. And it is D'Angelo, Hung, Riley, Will, Aparna, Victoria, Alana, Frank, Hayley, and Levon doing the roadblock.
The Wheel of Death just seems like a regular wheel you can spin into me. There's nothing deadly about it. It's not like as deadly as being dragged by a goat.
Or with flames coming out of it, or spikes.
It's not a fear factor challenge, Logan.
All they have to do is just get spun a few times, and it's like, okay, you're done spinning. That was the Wheel of Death.
The only reason that they do that is to then make it way harder for them when they're walking the tightrope.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll be a little bit dizzy. But they didn't spin it. They could have spun the wheel faster and for a longer period of time, or done more abrupt turns while spinning the wheel.
They could have dropped them off the cheese hill in Switzerland. Could you imagine that?
Just be like, 1, 2, 3.
That would have been a health and safety nightmare.
Off you go, down the mountain.
I just picture the cartoon of of just going down the entire Swiss Alps.
But first, of course, before doing any of that, they need makeup. And D'Angelo has the title when he says that red lipstick is not his colour.
They all really need to borrow Travis's makeup from season 23.
What I love is the fact that some people get a lot more heavily made up than others. Like Will,
Yes.
Will is very heavily made up, and most of them don't wipe it off before they go to the next challenge, which is brilliant.
I know.
Like when they're all getting angry in the cab, it's like, I can't take you seriously when you're mad because you look like Minnie Mouse right now.
And Hung goes a step further because she doesn't even take the costume off. She just runs around in the costume.
I know, that's funny. That's funny. Like, because obviously they're not going to use any of the costumes that they have for the people, unless I'm assuming they would have kept the whirling dervish stuff that the Aussies used, but there's not going to be a use for it. So really, if they want to take it, they should. But you know what? She doesn't have a lot of luggage. She doesn't have many clothes. Maybe she needs it.
I'm just really, really hoping that we end up seeing Hung's clown outfit again a few times during the season.
Yeah, her other outfits get ruined. Oh, I really need a change of clothes for this leg.
Just every reality fan forum sighting of Hung from now on is just her dressed as a clown. And let's be honest, this sort of a challenge, we can't really do anything with. There's not a lot of stuff that happens. Alana drops a bottle. That's about it. James and Will get into an argument about James being weak and Will doing both roadblocks so far. That's about it.
I learned the circus music once. One of the songs, like the Can Can song that they did in the middle, I've learned that on the piano. There you go. There's something you can add.
Thanks.
I like how there was a person on Twitter who was really pissed off that they used the most stereotypical beach song Deo for the drumming task, and then this week we get the most stereotypical circus music. It's like straight out of the Acrobats soundtrack for the Super Nintendo games.
My absolute favourite thing about this entire challenge is just that Alana gets sad trombone music whenever she drops anything.
Yeah.
Why didn't Hayley and why didn't they yield? They knew they were right at the back. They should have done it.
I don't know, because they had a 20-minute yield as well. In reality, it wouldn't probably have made that much of a difference because everyone would have been struggling. It took them far longer than 20 minutes to do the final challenge, so let's be honest, Kelly and Levon still would have left at the same time regardless. They would have just been way more pissed off at Kaylin and Haley for using the yield on them.
I don't know why D'Angelo was so upset about being in makeup and costume since he does cosplays all the time.
Yeah, but he wears a mask, so...
Is it always the same thing he cosplays as? Because you think there's got to be one time where he's wearing makeup.
The only one we've seen him in so far is the Predator costume that I am led to believe he wore for Halloween in 2016 as well, and that is a mask. So I'm going to assume that he probably just deliberately chooses masks, so he doesn't have to do any makeup or anything.
And then he hates the circus. I hate you now. I really do. I really hate you. I'm surprised he didn't push anybody off the tightrope when they gave him that second wine bottle.
See, the problem with this sort of a challenge for me is the fact that it's very linear. No one's really going to be able to overtake anyone, and no one really does overtake anyone.
Well, of course it's linear. It's a tightrope, and they all have to walk in the one direction the whole time.
Yeah, but there's only 2 stations. In a 10-team leg, there are only 2 stations for the roadblock, and everyone basically appears in order and leaves in order.
Is there any swapping of the order? Not even for Alana?
Yeah, you're right. Jerry and Frank and Leo and Alana swap, and that is it.
Yeah, I was thinking there was one swap.
But 8 of the 10 teams leave in the same position they started with, and that's not a good roadblock for me.
No. Maybe that's why they threw in this trucking task.
Talking of the trucking task, teams have to find Carrera 26 #10-03 to search for their next clue, where they have to customize a Volcator, a truck. When the customizer is happy with their work, they will receive their next clue. And also, they have to connect the horn.
And they have to drive it to the pit stop too.
Yep, and for once, they actually mention this in the clue, because usually they don't give them any hints. And as I said, it's a deliberate trick challenge, because the horn's disconnected. And Will's reaction whenever he sees the challenge is, yay, arts and crafts! And Hunk's hand is very bandaged. She's a bit insecure about her height normally, but it's an advantage that she can stand underneath the wheel arch and attach the thing she needs to in this challenge.
Why is it bandaged?
I don't know. I just noticed this. Her hand is really bandaged when she's under the wheel.
What could she have done to it? They haven't done anything. Well, dangerous-ish.
I didn't spot it during the clown challenge, but it could very well be the case that she had it bandaged after the goat pretty much pulled it out of its socket last week. However, Hung and Chi get a no bueno in their first attempt. And Vic is happy to see anything automotive because she works in #car sales, #BMW. And Hung is the first person to spot the hook up the horn part of the clue, and they leave in first. And teams must now find Parque Nacional, the pit stop for this leg of the race. The last team to check in may be eliminated.
In English, that means National Park.
Thank you, Logan, for translating. And we also see the greeter do a backflip with a football.
How good is he? And then D'Angelo did it too.
But he didn't have the football.
No, he was just showing off that he can do a backflip. The greeter can do a backflip whilst also keeping a football between his legs.
I'm surprised after D'Angelo did the backflip that Phil didn't jump in and say, do you want a cookie or something for that?
Do you want a treat?
Or Phil be like, I can do it too! And they're all just doing backflips.
Hung's just off to the side like, I did it last week when a goat pulled me.
I landed on my head though, so I'm not going to try again anytime soon.
And it is Gary and D'Angelo who leave in second, and then Hung and Chi checking in first. They win a leg again, and this time they win a trip to Switzerland.
They won something.
They did. I'm very happy for them. However, did you see the rumour online that this was a keep on racing leg?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Did you know that is utter horseshit? It is not a keep on racing leg, I've checked.
Why do they say stuff just for the sake of saying it?
Well, there was a picture of Phil holding Kaylin and Haley's clue, or a clue envelope he was holding up.
Yeah, but it's not a keep on racing leg. I have checked with my sources that this was not a keep on racing leg. It is utter horseshit spread to try and get likes on Reddit. And it irritated me. Because I saw it, then Justin got tagged with someone going, this is something to bring up on Races Recap, and I just chatted Justin going, I've double checked, it wasn't. Spoilers for tomorrow's Races Recap. And Gary and D'Angelo check in second, and then Riley and Madison and James and Will get no buenos as well. James asks to see the route info, Will says it's in his bag and he doesn't need to see it. And I'm saying this because I know Michelle's about to erupt.
Well, yes. Like, seriously. Like, James is a super fan. He says, let's check the clue. And Will says no. Now, you don't. Why did James just listen to him, for one thing? Why didn't he just look at the clue again? I wonder how long it was between that conversation and when they actually did. I'd like to know. But seriously, come on, James, read the clue. You know this. You know this. I know you'd be killing yourself about it, but you know it.
Listeners, I've waited 16 months to hear Michelle go, seriously? And why? Really?
Why? Why?
It's funny that in their cast assessment that the attributes that we had assigned to James actually more applied to Will out of the two. Because Will said, are you ever going to do a roadblock? He's already the one that's fuming. And then, oh, I want to just look at the clue one more time. We don't need to read the clue. So it's Will that's more prone to these little breakdown episodes. And then James is the first person I've ever seen in my life to do, you know how people online, when they try to get a point across, they put a clap emoji after each individual word? James is the first person I've ever seen to talk like that in real life. It's no longer Will and James, it's Will and James.
It's an emphasis for him.
Spoilers, James doing that is Aldana this week, and James just looking incredulous at Will because it made me laugh so hard.
Read the clue.
You know something else that happened during that was a little bit silly? When you discover what you've done wrong, so it wasn't, I don't think it was those two, but it was a couple of the other teams, they yell out, oh, we're supposed to do the horn. No, you don't yell out. You say it so quietly so that you don't alert the other teams.
It was Will who did that.
Is Will the mole?
He didn't do it as loud as, was it the girls?
Yeah, so Will does say quite loudly to James, oh, we had to do the horn, which then lets everyone else know about it. But then it's Leon and Lana telling Kaylin and Haley that they need to hook the horn up. Then Kelly and Levon managed to read their lips and see what they said. And then I think they shout it to Jerry and Frank.
Alana said it quite loudly as well.
No, I think it was reading the lips that that got Kelly and Levon to find out about the horn.
No! When she
Yes!
first found out to do it, she said it quite loudly. Not when they were telling the others before that.
That wasn't what tips everyone else off, though.
No, I'm just saying it as an aside. Be quiet. Don't say things loudly.
Okay, sorry.
I accept.
Of the final 9, only 2 teams have had the same person do both roadblocks so far as well. One is Will and James, the other is Jerry and Frank. Jerry's going to have to do some roadblocks soon.
And you said that Levon and Kelly passed on what to do to Jerry and Frank?
I think so, yeah.
So they essentially screwed themselves over out of the race?
Yeah. And Aparna and Ishwar and Michelle and Vic hook up the horn straight away. Riley and Madison leave in 3rd, with Aparna and Ishwar in 4th on their first try, and Michelle and Vic 5th. And now James and Will freak out. Because James freaks out, and I have to say, it's so hard to take Will seriously when he looks so ridiculous.
Oh, when he's got the makeup on, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he looks so ridiculous thanks to the clown makeup.
Well, after all of this, luckily, it'll be really quick to recover from it, because when they kiss and make up, Will is already halfway there.
That is true, yeah. And James has one of the quotes of the episode when he says, I'm going to be so livid if it's those flaps. However, the quote of the episode, and the one that I have clipped because it is so ridiculous out of context, is Alana talking to the judge when she says, muy bueno, sexy, no?
But no.
It's so funny when Alana just kind of slightly flirts with the judge, let's be honest, and just goes, sexy, no?
And she flirts with the truck, too, calling it a sexy truck. Maybe that was Claudia.
Maybe, yeah. And talking to Claudia, James and Will finally spot the horn clue. They are so loud that Leo and Alana hook theirs up too. However, they don't hook up the bunting at the back of the truck. And James and Will leave in 6th. James cries and is annoyed with himself, and then Leo and Alana get rejected for missing the trim on the back of their truck.
I don't understand how they could have missed the bunting because they've got a box full of stuff. And where was that piece? Like, why? You have to attach every piece. So did that piece fall under the truck? Like, where did it go? Did they just think, oh, we don't need to add this? I don't understand.
I wonder if they just kind of added it as a second row of bunting to one of the bits of the truck and were like, oh, we shouldn't have done that.
Why?
Or maybe inside or something.
Yeah, I'd like to know why. Questions that will never get answered.
And then we get a rapid-fire set of check-ins with Riley and Madison checking in 3rd, Aparna and Ishwar in 4th, and Michelle and Vic in 5th. And then everyone else keeps getting rejected and frustrated. James and Will checking in 6th and actually have a match chat this week, and they said they forgot to read the stinking clue. And then Leo and Alana leave in 7th. Finally, sorry for wasting all your time. And then they help Kaylin and Hayley, as they are nice and fun. However, Kelly spots Leo and Alana telling them and shouts it, letting Jerry and Frank hear. What an absolute mess.
No advantage was particularly gained.
And then Kaylin and Hayley leave in 8th, Jerry and Frank in 9th, and Kelly and Lavon in last. And then essentially they just check in the same order. Leo and Alana checking in 7th, he's wearing the bow tie from the clown task. Kaylin and Hayley checking in 8th, they owe Leo and Alana their lives. Jerry and Frank's checking in 9th, and then Kelly and Lavon checking in 10th. They're eliminated, and they even hugged like 4 times.
4 hugs and 20 years ago.
So next week, in the first trip to the Amazon, there is a double U-turn, a confusing market, a missing machete, frustration, and tears.
So does that mean, do we know for sure if it's going to be a detour next leg?
I think it's kind of got to be, unless there is a twist to the U-turn we don't know about yet. There kind of has to be a detour next week, other than Emerald or Gold.
And they'll get to keep their yield hourglasses for a future leg, because Phil makes it sound like there's going to be a lot of times to yield another team.
Yeah, I'm wondering how many they're going to put in, because I can't see it being more than about 3.
Yeah, because he makes that quite clear, saying, this is the first opportunity to use the yield. And I'm thinking, well, if you wouldn't emphasize it that much if there's just 2, so it's got to be 3, maybe 4, but they're doing U-turns as well, so you think, oh, there's got to be more than one U-turn if there's one appearing by leg 3. So maybe that's just the way they're going to go, is have teams more competitive and aggressive towards each other by having, 2 U-turns and 3 yields.
I kind of like how, even though this yield was utterly pointless and didn't get used, they still had to put it in, because if the yield gets used later in the season, they've got to show how they got the hourglasses and where those came from to make it relevant. Otherwise, they're going to get so many questions in like 7 or 8 or 10 or whatever.
Yes, so obviously it does get used.
Yeah, it kind of has to be used if they put in the find the hourglass bit of the episode.
Wonder if it's going to be overload if they do, let's say, head-to-heads this season, and then keep up with do a partner swap, must vote U-turns. They mix all of that in throughout the 11 episodes.
Please God, no.
No partner swap.
And no head-to-head.
Yeah, just no head-to-head, because they cut half of them anyway and they're always pointless and just aggravating. However, I do have a horrible feeling they are going to put one in just so Phil can keep practicing for Tough as Nails.
Maybe that's the only reason why they had it for 30 and 31 was Phil had Tough as Nails in the works, so he just wanted practice with calling play-by-play and challenges. And now that he's had that role and had a full season of Tough as Nails, he won't have to do that again. Well, granted, Tough as Nails filmed away after season 32, like 5 years after it.
So, do you want to eulogize Kelly and Lavon?
Yes, I said to my girls after we finished watching it, I said, see, you don't have to be the most athletic team to go well in the race.
They never did well in the race in either episode. Granted, this leg seemed like a bad taxi impacted a significant amount, but when they're at a task, they never truly excelled at anything.
No, but a lot of people, well, a lot of casuals think that if, it's the football stars, the athletes, they're the ones that are going to do very well. And it's not always the case. And I actually like it when stuff like this happens, to show people that it's not all about speed and athleticism.
Well, the thing is that historically on the Amazing Race, athletes have done very poorly overall. Athletes rarely get to the end of the Amazing Race.
Absolutely nothing personal against Kelly and Levon, but it was a bit of a relief for a former pro athlete team to go out finally, because there were 4 of them in the final 10. And they do tend to make a boring season if it's pro athlete teams going far, and lots of pro athlete teams. So it's a bit of a relief when they went just as a pro athlete team. It's like, yeah, at least it's not going to be too dominant.
They were the most interesting of the pro athlete teams on the season, though, I would say. Because, they had actual obstacles to overcome the first leg.
And also, just for the record, statistically, they are below average for 10th place teams. 10th place teams average 8.47 as an average placement. They got 9.5 over their 2 legs.
Yeah, the athleticism didn't really pan out for them. I mean, the first leg, they got a bit of bad luck with a lot of number-related tasks. And then this episode, they were hampered by a bad taxi, but overall they just never had a strong showing except for outrunning the goats. And that's just the way it goes. There's only 2 legs. It's a relatively small sample size, but that's the way it goes on the Amazing Race.
Final question. Who do you think is going home next week, if anyone?
Oh, if anyone. Yeah, it could be a non-elimination.
Because bearing in mind we have 3 non-elimination legs to get to in the next 8 legs, we got to start having somebody else soon.
I don't want to say the girls, but it could be the girls.
Which ones?
Oh, Kaylin and Haley.
Not the girls that have been at the top of the leaderboard, or the ones who just got eliminated?
No. Well, the ones who are eliminated aren't in it next week, obviously.
You never know, it could be an elimination station. A battle bag, whatever they call it in Big Brother. Battle bag.
Oh, jeez. No, well, I don't think Michelle and Victoria will go out soon. Yeah.
They're doing way better than the original
Anyone predicted?
expectations I had, yes.
Because I think we had them as very early boots, as did Race's Recap. Don't really care about anyone else's opinions. So they are vastly defying everyone's expectations who matter.
Because they still behave like a team that you would expect would suck at the race. And then each week it's like, no, they still did really well at that task, and they get a good taxi driver, and yeah, they're close to the top of the leaderboard both times.
I think Jerry and Frank could be... Well, it depends what the task is that they have to do. You know, if Dad has to do it, maybe he might not be as good at it. Send them back to the back of the pack.
I think Jerry and Frank are in danger as well, because we've not seen any of them, basically. And we've certainly not seen anything impressive of them.
And the fact that the teammate who would do better at Roadblocks is the one who's done the first 2. And now they're at a disadvantage, assuming they're at a disadvantage, that Jerry now has to do at least 1, if not the next 2 roadblocks leading up to the next elimination. And they, just compared to everyone else, they have done significantly... Well, no, first leg, I guess they checked in, 5th place in the first leg? 3rd, 5th?
They were 5th and 9th in the last 2 legs.
Yeah, so even though they did well in the first leg, they just never really made an impression on anybody.
No, I feel like their slight spike in airtime this week is probably going to mean they go home next week.
Or the week after.
Yeah.
They could be the type of team that gets last place back-to-back legs.
Yeah. Have you got anything else you want to say about this leg?
No, I'm all done.
I feel good with an hour.
So, thank you for listening to our Amazing Race 32 recap. We'll be back next Sunday to recap the 3rd episode. Don't forget you can contact us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or Instagram, where we are RTV Warriors, or you can email us on contact@rtvwarriors.com. Logan is on Twitter at Logsuperquacky. Michelle is Bear33333333, and I am MJ Harmstone. Logan and I will also be back to conclude Via Stamol Renaissance on Wednesday. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Peace out and just chill till the next episode.
Bye.
Muy bueno. Sexy. No?